The stars outside the shuttle window looked like silent fireflies floating in the black ocean of space. 19-year-old Alyssa Trent pressed her palm against the glass, watching Earth shrink into a blue dot behind her. Her reflection stared back, young, tired, and uncertain. She had dreamed of exploring new worlds since childhood, but this was not the adventure she had imagined. She wasn't chosen for glory. She was sent away. The official reason said scientific duty, but everyone aboard the Erebus Dawn knew the truth. Earth's governments had begun exiling political troublemakers, smart, young, and rebellious thinkers, to faraway colonies. Alyssa had led a group that questioned the energy monopolies controlling Earth's future. Instead of a trial, she was quietly selected for deep exploration. Now she was on her way to Kepler 62F, a planet orbiting a dim orange sun 1,200 light-years away. The files said it had breathable air, mild gravity, and signs of ancient mineral structures. But no life, at least none they knew of. The shuttle shook slightly as it entered the atmosphere. A low hum filled the cabin and everyone gripped their harnesses. Commander Hale, a tall man with a scar down his cheek, stood near the front. His voice was calm but heavy. Landing sequence in 30 seconds. Check seals and gear. No mistakes, people. Alyssa glanced at the other colonists, 15 in total. Scientists, engineers, a few soldiers. None of them smiled. They were all outcasts, exiled from a planet that no longer wanted them. The Erebus dawn pierced through the copper clouds. Outside, the sky glowed with strange purples and blues, lit by lightning that danced in slow motion. The planet's electromagnetic storms were famous in data reports, but no one expected them to look this beautiful. Touchdown confirmed, Hale said. Welcome to Kepler 62F. The hatch opened and a rush of cool air filled the cabin. Alyssa stepped out first, boots sinking slightly into violet-colored sand. The ground shimmered faintly like metallic dust. Above, the twin moons hung like silver coins in the sky. For a long moment, everyone stood in silence. It wasn't the silence of peace, it was the silence of distance. 1,000,000 miles from home, 1,000 years of messages away. This is it, Alyssa whispered. Our new world. The first few days were spent setting up the colony base. Metal domes, solar panels, water extractors. Alyssa worked in the science module, analyzing soil samples and atmosphere readings. Everything looked perfect for human survival. Yet something felt wrong. At night, the wind made soft humming sounds that echoed through the metal walls. The colonists began complaining of strange dreams. They said they heard voices, whispering in a language they didn't understand. Only Alyssa slept peacefully. You really don't hear anything? Dr. Kim, the colony's biologist, asked her one morning. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. It's like someone's calling my name in my head. Alyssa shook her head. Nothing. Maybe it's just the planet's magnetic fields. You should rest. But curiosity grew inside her. If there were electromagnetic disturbances, she wanted to see where they came from. So on the 6th day, she took a rover and went beyond the hills into a region the scanners marked as unstable. The landscape changed as she drove. The violet sand turned darker, filled with crystalline rocks that hummed faintly when she passed. Her instruments went wild, energy readings spiking and dropping like waves. Finally, she saw it, a huge black shape half buried in the dunes, a monolith, taller than any building she had ever seen. Its surface wasn't smooth. It was carved with deep lines, almost like writing. The symbols glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Alyssa parked the rover and stepped out, her suit's visor reflecting the monolith's light. Her breath caught in her throat. This isn't natural, she said softly. Someone made this. She walked closer, brushing away sand from one of the carvings. It showed figures, tall, thin beings with forearms standing under a sky full of stars. Around them were smaller shapes that looked human. Her hand trembled as she touched the stone. The world shifted. For an instant, everything went silent, even her breathing. Then a deep vibration passed through the ground, strong enough to knock her off balance. Her visor display flickered. The air shimmered with faint blue lines, like electricity dancing across the wind. A voice, or maybe a thought, whispered through her mind. Awakened. Then it was gone. Alyssa stumbled back to the rover, heart pounding. What was that? She whispered. Her instruments were blank, no recordings, no data, as if nothing had happened. When she returned to the colony, she found chaos. The others were panicking. Some were shouting about visions. Others were praying. Commander Hale stood in the center, trying to calm them. "What happened?" she asked. "The planet," Hale said. "The energy field spiked across all sensors about an hour ago, then." Everyone started hearing things, voices. "It's driving them mad." Alyssa froze. The timing matched exactly when she touched the monolith. But she didn't tell him. That night, she couldn't sleep. The wind outside sounded different, stronger, almost alive. She sat by the window, staring at the two moons. A question burned inside her. Had she awakened something? In the following days, the colony began to fracture. Some believed the planet was alive, speaking to them. Others wanted to leave immediately, though there was nowhere to go. Alyssa kept her secret, spending her hours studying the samples she had taken. One evening, she noticed something strange. The black dust from the monolith reacted to human touch. When she placed her hand near it, the particles arranged themselves into patterns, forming symbols she recognized from the carvings. Her tablet translated part of it. "Guardians of the sky, watchers of the next." "Watchers?" Alyssa whispered. The word felt important. She decided to return to the monolith. This time she carried stronger scanners and a recording drone. As she reached the site, the sandstorm was already rising, lightning crawling across the horizon. But she didn't stop. Standing before the stone again, she spoke aloud, her voice barely audible against the wind. "If someone is here, I want to understand. Who are you?" The monolith answered, not with words, but with images. In her mind, she saw flashes of a civilization made of light and energy, cities floating in the air, towers that touched the clouds. Then came fire, a wave of darkness spreading through space, devouring stars. The beings tried to stop it, but failed. They built something, this world, as a refuge. The vision ended as suddenly as it began. Alyssa fell to her knees, gasping. When she looked up, the carvings glowed brighter than before. The hum was now a steady pulse. It felt like a heartbeat. The planet's heartbeat. She whispered, "You're not dead, are you?" "You've been waiting." Behind her, thunder rolled across the plain. She turned to see a column of light shooting from the horizon into the sky, a beam of pure white energy that split the clouds. The ground shook violently and her rover's alarm screamed. Alyssa realized the truth. Whatever lived beneath this planet wasn't just ancient. It was awakening. She grabbed the rover's controls and raced back to the colony as fast as she could. When she arrived, the entire base was bathed in strange light. The other colonists stood outside, staring up at the sky, their faces blank and pale. Commander Hale looked at her, his eyes wide. "It's speaking to us," he said. "Can't you hear it?" Alyssa shook her head. "No, but I think I made it speak." The ground rumbled again and the sky turned red. Alyssa looked up. A shape was forming in the clouds, massive and shimmering. For the first time since she left Earth, she felt true fear. The wind carried a low, deep sound, almost like a word. She couldn't understand it, but it felt like a name. Her name. And deep beneath the planet's surface, something stirred. Something that had been asleep for thousands of years. And now, it knew she was there. The days after the awakening were filled with fear and confusion. The colony base on Kepler 62F no longer felt like home. Strange energy storms moved across the horizon every few hours, and the ground trembled as if something beneath the surface was alive. Commander Hale ordered everyone to stay inside the domes, but the whispers never stopped. The colonists said they could hear soft voices in their heads, sometimes words, sometimes songs, sometimes memories that weren't their own. Alyssa Trent didn't hear them. She alone was left untouched by the voices. That difference made her both special and dangerous. At first, people asked her for help. "Why don't you hear it? Can you stop it?" But when she couldn't, fear turned into suspicion. "She's the one who brought this," Dr. Kim whispered one evening, his voice shaking. The storm started after she went out there. Alyssa pretended not to hear. But deep inside, she knew it was true. She had touched the monolith, and whatever it was, it had responded to her. That night, she sat alone by the window of her small lab. The violet sand outside glowed faintly under the moons. The hum in the air had grown stronger, almost rhythmic, like the planet was breathing. Her hands trembled as she opened her tablet and read the words she had translated earlier. Guardians of the sky. Watchers of the next. Who are you? She whispered to the empty room. And why me? No answer came, only silence, and the faint shimmer of energy outside. By the 10th day, the colony had changed completely. Some colonists had formed a group calling themselves the Children of the Watchers. They believed the voices were holy, that the planet was a sacred being testing their faith. Others thought the whispers were dangerous and wanted to shut down all operations and call for rescue. Even though rescue would take hundreds of years, Commander Hale tried to keep control, but his own mind was slipping. Sometimes in the middle of a conversation, he would stare at the ceiling and whisper to invisible figures. Alyssa kept her distance. She focused on data. The scientist in her refused to surrender to fear, but her instruments showed impossible results. The energy readings beneath the colony were rising steadily, as if the planet's core was awakening. She had to know more. One evening, she sneaked out of the base with her rover. The storm had passed, leaving the air clear and cold. She drove for hours, following the scanner's faint signal toward the northern magnetic fields, the place the drones couldn't enter because of interference. When she reached it, the ground dipped into a vast crater surrounded by dark cliffs. At its center, buried under the sand, she saw the outlines of enormous stone structures, towers, arches, and bridges, all made of the same black crystal as the monolith. It wasn't just one monument. It was an entire city. Alyssa's heart raced. She climbed down, flashlight in hand. The walls were carved with symbols that glowed faintly when she passed. Her scanner beeped wildly, detecting energy patterns older than recorded human history. Then she noticed something strange. Every carving seemed to show tall alien figures, the Watchers, standing side by side with smaller ones that looked human. She froze. Humans? That's impossible. As she touched one of the carvings, a pulse of light ran across the wall. The entire chamber lit up and a soft voice echoed in her mind. Not words, but emotions, curiosity, sadness, hope. Her body went rigid. Images flashed before her eyes, alien cities in the sky, crystal ships floating through the stars, and finally, darkness swallowing them all. The voice became clearer. We are the Watchers. We left this world for you. Alyssa fell to her knees, tears filling her eyes. Left for us? The voice continued. Our time ended. Yours begins. You must learn. You must remember. When the vision ended, she found herself lying on the ground, breathing hard. Her scanner showed an active signal, coordinates leading deep beneath the planet's surface. She realized she had found a message. Not a warning, but an inheritance. By the time she returned to the colony, everything had fallen apart. The Children of the Watchers had taken control. They believed Hale was a false leader and that Alyssa was the chosen. They surrounded her rover as she drove in, eyes wild and glowing faintly blue. You spoke to them. One shouted. You carry their voice. I only found information, Alyssa said calmly. There's something under the surface. A core, a machine maybe. Blasphemy. Another yelled. You question the divine gift. Before she could respond, Commander Hale appeared with soldiers. His face was pale, his hands shaking. Enough, he shouted. Trent, you're under arrest for spreading lies and causing chaos. The soldiers seized her. She struggled. I'm trying to save us. There's something coming. Silence! Hale snapped. You're done. They locked her in an observation pod, a small transparent room meant for biological samples. She sat alone, staring through the glass as lightning danced across the sky outside. For hours, she thought about what she had seen. The Watchers weren't gods. They were beings who had once lived, built, and fallen, but they had chosen humanity as their successor. Why? And what was the darkness that destroyed them? Her thoughts were interrupted when the pod lights flickered. A faint blue mist began to form around her. She stood, heart pounding. The air shimmered, and then, like a mirage, a tall, glowing figure appeared before her. It was one of the Watchers. Its body was made of light and shadow, its face featureless, but calm. When it spoke, the voice was gentle and deep, echoing directly in her mind. Do not fear, child of Earth. Alyssa took a slow breath. Are you real? We are memories, the Watcher said. Echoes left behind to guide those who come after. She stepped closer. Why me? Why can I hear you when others go mad? The figure's light pulsed softly. Because you listen without fear. The others hear only themselves. You hear the silence. Alyssa's throat tightened. What happened to your people? The Watcher's tone grew heavy. We faced the void, a hunger that consumes thought, matter, and light. We fled across the stars, but it followed. We built this world as a fortress of memory. When we knew we would fall, we left our knowledge for the next to rise. Her voice trembled. And now it's coming for us. Isn't it? The void moves slowly, but it never stops, the Watcher said. It will reach your home world one day. But you, Alyssa Trent, can prepare them. She felt tears on her face. I don't understand how. The Watcher raised a hand and a sphere of light appeared in front of her. Inside it were millions of tiny symbols and data, languages, maps, technologies. This is our legacy, the Watcher said. Take it to your people. Show them what we learned. Save what can be saved. The light moved toward her, passing through her chest. For a brief moment her mind filled with voices, thousands of them, and then silence. The Watcher faded away. Remember, successor, you are the bridge. And then it was gone. When the door opened hours later, Hale stood there looking confused and weak. The whispers had stopped. The colony was silent for the first time in days. What did you do? He asked quietly. Alyssa met his eyes. I listened. She walked past him, her movements calm, her eyes glowing faintly with reflected starlight. Inside her mind, she felt the Watcher's knowledge, their technology, their memories, their warnings. She knew what she had to do. The planet isn't a prison, she said softly. It's a library, and it's waking up. Hale frowned. Alyssa, what does that mean? It means this was never exile, she said. It was destiny. Outside, the sky shimmered again, not with lightning, but with lines of light forming strange geometric shapes across the clouds. Something deep within the planet began to hum, louder and steadier, and from the core of Kepler 62F, a pulse of energy shot into space, a signal traveling toward Earth. Alyssa looked up at the stars. They'll hear it, she whispered. And when they do, everything will change. The signal was still traveling, invisible yet powerful, toward the distant blue planet they had once called home. Inside the colony, Alyssa Trent walked through the corridors with a calm certainty she had never known. Her mind was no longer just her own. The Watcher's knowledge pulsed through her thoughts, images of alien technology, energy systems, and histories of civilizations long vanished. The other colonists stared at her, some with awe, some with fear. Commander Hale followed silently, unsure whether to trust or fear her. You've changed, he said quietly. I've learned, Alyssa replied. That's all. The colony had settled into an uneasy routine. The storms no longer struck violently, but the ground hummed steadily, almost like a giant heart beating beneath their feet. Alyssa knew why. The planet was alive in its own way, a living library built to preserve knowledge. She gathered the colonists in the central dome. We have work to do, she said. Kepler 62F is not just a world. It's a guide. We need to awaken its full power before the void reaches Earth. Hale frowned. Awaken its power? Alyssa, some of us can barely understand the readings. You don't need to understand everything, she said. You need to follow instructions. The planet will help us if we act together. For the first time since arrival, she felt true leadership. She was no longer the frightened 19-year-old who had watched Earth disappear. She was a bridge between human civilization and the knowledge of a civilization older than stars. The first step was to activate the orbital beacon, a massive structure hidden in orbit around Kepler 62F. According to the Watcher's data, it was a transmitter built to send the knowledge of the planet to other worlds. Alyssa calculated that if Earth received it, humanity would gain centuries of insight in a single message. Technology, science, medicine, energy systems, and strategies to survive the cosmic threat approaching their solar system. But the beacon wasn't powered. It required a connection to the planet's core, a delicate balance of energy that, if misaligned, could destroy both the colony and the planet. Alyssa gathered a small team of engineers and scientists. We'll need to travel beneath the surface, she explained. The tunnels will take us to the core chamber. Everyone else stays here and maintains the base. Communication will be limited, The journey was treacherous. They traveled through crystalline tunnels filled with pulsing energy and intricate carvings that depicted the Watcher's history. Alyssa could feel the planet guiding them, lighting the way with faint glows along the walls. At the core, they found the chamber, vast, with pillars of energy rising to a dome of light. At its center, the orbital beacon floated inert but intact. "Looks like a spaceship," one of the engineers whispered. "Better," Alyssa said. "It's a message that can save a civilization." She stepped forward and placed her hands on the control panel. Instantly, holographic projections filled the room. Maps of stars, alien formulas, and warnings written in symbols she could understand because the Watchers had shared their memory with her. "This is it," she said. "We just need to synchronize the beacon with the planet's core." The engineers worked under her guidance, connecting energy conduits, monitoring fluctuations, and adjusting calibrations according to her instructions. The chamber hummed louder with every correction. Light pulsed like a heartbeat. Then came a tremor. Alyssa looked up. The energy pillars flickered violently. "Stay calm," she shouted. "The core is unstable, and we need to stabilize it now." For minutes that felt like hours, they worked together. Sweat dripped down their faces, hearts pounding in sync with the planet's pulse. Alyssa focused all her energy on feeling the rhythm, guiding the adjustments in perfect harmony. Finally, the hum steadied. The pillars glowed steadily, and the orbital beacon came to life. Light shot through the tunnels, reaching the surface and then into space. Alyssa smiled. "It's working." Back on the colony surface, the other colonists watched in awe. The violet sand sparkled. The skies shimmered with lines of light forming messages, a silent code aimed at Earth. For the first time, the planet seemed friendly, almost grateful. Alyssa emerged from the core tunnels, her suit streaked with dust and energy particles. The colony cheered, though no one fully understood what had just happened. Hale came forward, his eyes wide with respect. "You did it," he said quietly. "No," Alyssa said, shaking her head. "We did it together." She knew the beacon was more than just a signal. It carried the Watcher's entire legacy, and soon humanity would receive it. They would learn that they were not alone, that intelligence, courage, and compassion were recognized across the universe. As the beacon transmitted, Alyssa felt the presence of the Watchers within her mind begin to fade. They had entrusted her with their knowledge, their hope, and their final task. Now it was up to humanity to rise. She thought about Earth, about her family, her friends, and the billions of people who would never see this planet but would feel its gift. The thought made her heart ache with both longing and pride. Alyssa turned to Hale. "We should prepare to leave. The planet's energy will stabilize for a while, but we can't stay forever." Hale nodded. "You're sure?" She smiled faintly. "Absolutely." The colonists began packing, securing data, and preparing the shuttle for departure. Alyssa stayed behind for a moment, standing on the violet sand watching the twin moons. She whispered a quiet thank you to the planet, to the Watchers, and to the universe that had chosen humanity as the next stewards of knowledge. The journey back to the shuttle was quiet. The sky above shimmered with the last of the energy pulses from the beacon, a light show meant not for entertainment but for guidance. Alyssa gazed at it and felt a strange connection, a reminder that humans were no longer the lonely species they once were. Once aboard the Erebus Dawn, Alyssa activated the transmission confirmation system. The signal had reached Earth, its code being deciphered by scientists there. Already messages were spreading, not just scientific data but hope. Humanity's potential had been unlocked. One of the younger engineers looked at her wide-eyed. "Do you think they'll understand?" "They will," Alyssa said. "Because they have to, and because we gave them the chance." Weeks passed in orbit. Earth's response was slow but monumental. Scientists marveled at the alien technologies. Engineers began experimenting with energy systems that could power entire cities without pollution. Philosophers and thinkers debated the implications of humanity being chosen as a successor species. Governments began cooperating instead of fighting, inspired by the beacon's message. Alyssa watched all of it from space, the knowledge of the Watchers still alive within her. For the first time, she understood the meaning of courage, sacrifice, and unity. Kepler 62F was no longer just a lonely planet. It had become the cradle of a new era. Humanity was ready to face challenges greater than they had ever imagined, but they would not face them alone. The final night on Kepler 62F, Alyssa stood on the colony's highest observation tower. The violet sand shimmered beneath the moons. The air was calm. No hum, no tremors, only silence. She thought of the Watchers. Their civilization had fallen, but they had left a gift that could save countless lives. She felt their presence as a warm pulse inside her mind, a reminder that even the greatest knowledge required courage to carry. Commander Hale approached. "Do you regret staying behind even for a moment?" he asked softly. Alyssa shook her head. "No, I've seen what humans can do. I've seen hope take form. That's worth any risk." The shuttle lifted off, carrying the colonists toward the stars, leaving Kepler 62F behind. But the planet remained alive in memory, in energy, and in the beacon now traveling toward Earth. As Alyssa looked out at the cosmos, she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." And somewhere across the stars, the Watchers smiled. Humanity had not only survived the test, they had risen. The legacy of the Watchers would continue through the courage, curiosity, and compassion of one young woman, and the species she represented. Earth would never be the same again. Humanity had been chosen.